job histories. Everyone has one, and we're here to talk about it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It's time to work it out. I'm your host, Lisi, and welcome to the Work It Out podcast. So, a little bit about myself. I have had a ton of job experience. Unofficially, I started working in high school, but my first real job was after I turned 18 and moved to a new city with my family. And basically, I'm going to be breaking down my own experiences in different types of jobs. They range on a huge spectrum of different kinds of jobs. I'm going to talk about how I created my resume and what tips and tricks to use when you have a resume for your types of jobs that you're applying for. So you're going to have a lot of experiences in different types of work environments, and you're going to gain a lot of skills from that. But you're not always going to have the same resume for each job. So at one point we're going to have a conversation about that and how to tailor it to the jobs you want. This episode is actually going to talk about the job hunting experience, what I did in the past when it comes to looking for jobs, some of the struggles I've gone through, how job hunting has changed over time with the advent of new technology, and then a lot of the modern struggles we're getting, especially after 2020. Now it's 2024, and as everybody can see, every job is hiring, but nobody's actually calling you back for interviews. So we're going to talk about all of that, especially today. So let me start how I was saying my first job. So it wasn't officially a job. I was more working for myself, and I was essentially private tutoring my friends. In high school, I was in a bunch of honors and AP classes. School came pretty easily to me, and so to pretty much help others with what I understood, I liked to learn about how other people learn. And when something like I understood it, if friends ever needed help or anything like that, I would just help them here and there, like helping peers regularly in class. And then there would be a few times where I was specifically private tutoring one of my friends. I kind of sucked about like asking them for money, so I pretty much just did it like, hey, whenever we could get together, even if it's once a week, twice a week, whatever, and I kind of just let them pay whatever they wanted to pay. So a little bit about that. When I moved from one city to another, I ended up like moving about an hour distance by train from these cities, and I used to take that commute to and from to go back to my like where I graduated, where they were still living, and to tutor them. And I never factored in any of those costs into tutoring. I never really pressured her to give me a certain amount. She just kind of paid me whenever. And so technically I would be losing money if I really counted the job, but I was 18 and I was helping tutoring her for at least since I was like 17. And I was kind of reluctant to give her a harsh price. So, I let myself get taken advantage of by not being firm on what I should be getting paid for the amount of time and the commute that I was doing. Because we would go to a Subway, sit together for hours. I was helping her with these college tests, essentially the math tests you have to do to see what level you're going to be in college. She wanted to be a lawyer, so she had to get pretty decent scores for that to go to a higher level college. And just never fucking bothered to give her a firm price, so I just took whatever she gave me. I was still technically doing this when I got my first job. So I moved to a new city. I moved to Wellington, which is West Palm Beach-ish area in Florida, where I'm from. We moved there as soon as I turned 18. So as soon as I graduated high school, we moved to a new city. So a whole new environment for me. I didn't know where shit was. So I didn't also have a car. I didn't have my license because I walked to and from school all the time or got a ride from my mom. So I didn't bother getting a car young. So when we moved there, the way I did job hunting is I had a bike that I bought pretty much as soon as we moved, and I just rode essentially 5 to 10 miles radius from the house and just applied to every shopping plaza that I could. I ended up having a backpack with a folder full of resumes, and I just went shopping plaza to shopping plaza, applying to everywhere I could. A couple places I remember we did interviews on the spot, but the majority I just filled out like their application and went home. And then a few of them they gave me like lists like of links of like, hey, make sure you apply online too. So that's how I did my first job experience. Literally just for when we moved, my mom was like, hey, you gotta get a job, because at that point I was still debating whether or not I want to go to college. Story for another time. But yeah, so I was literally applying every single place I can reach with my bike. So the first job that actually took me on was a plus size older women's clothing store. Um, it was a pretty small store. It's a chain, but in general, the store itself was pretty small, and the clientele was very specific, and so most days would be pretty slow. My main responsibilities were being a cashier, putting out merchandise, keeping stores clean and clothes organized throughout the store, and then every now and again, if we had some kind of promotion, we would also be in charge of doing different kind of merchandising and putting up um, decorative pieces with the new sales whenever we had a sale going on. So most of the time, the store was very slow. There wasn't really much to do. So I took it upon myself to go to every single clothing hanger and evenly space them. Obviously, part of the job was keeping those neat, so by color and size and all that. But I would literally go to every single either the circle hanging things or the ones on the wall, evenly spaced, like with my thumb, like manually, all of the hangers, like just anything to fill the fucking time because it was such a drag. Um, whether that's ADD or whatever the fuck. Yeah, no, I needed to be racing around the store finding something to do. So that was my first job. It was maybe about 6 employees besides the manager that worked there. And it was anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week, pretty much full time most of the time, but some weeks were a little bit flexible. And at that point, I wasn't in school yet, so I was just doing the job. I was doing that job and technically the tutoring at the same time. So I was working 2 jobs. Um, I ended up learning the routines pretty quickly. And by about 2 months out, I was extremely bored and trying to find a different job. Oh, wait, I actually applied to J.C. Penney and was working with them for a bit too. So 2/3 jobs if the tutoring counts. Um, yeah, pretty much because I wasn't in school. That was the only thing I was doing. So I was trying to fill in all my time working as much as possible pretty much at that point. So yeah, at 1.3 jobs. Okay, but yeah, I was working there for about 2 months and then I told my manager that I wanted to quit. She told me, no, why? I was just thinking about promoting you to assistant manager. She literally told me that the day I told her I was planning to quit. So we ended up doing a thing where I was working 1 day a week for a while until I decided to fully get out of there. Because she liked me and wanted to keep me on. But yeah, that's my first job experience. Very fast pick up the routine. It's literally just clothes. Oh, um, I am plus size, and so now things would fit. But back then, I was maybe like 50 pounds lighter than I am now. And so there'd be times where like she wanted us to try on the clothes and model them so that like the customers would come in the store and see us wearing the clothes. But at that time, nothing fit me. So I would literally be wearing like these oversized blouses and like maybe the heels on the wall. I would buy a pair just so I can like model them and show them to the clients. So at that point, I didn't fit anything, so it was just a matter of making it fit me. Um, because also I was 18. The people that would come in the store maybe like 40s, 50s. So I was just literally wearing like big old lady clothes on like a small, pretty much kid at that point in the store. It was pretty ridiculous at times. But yeah, no. Very slow job. Not really much going on. First work experience, fine. I guess regular. But yeah, so that was my first job. Um, I was working at J.C. Penney only like 2 days a week. That's all they would give me, and I ended up quitting that one because they weren't giving me enough time. And so the last thing I was doing pretty much up until I started college and the next job that lasted way longer, I was pretty much just doing the tutoring at that point. And then my second job was with Publix. I got the Publix job and I started going to Palm Beach State at the same time. And so those were two of my essential what I was doing every day. I was going to school, biking or taking the bus to school every day, and then I was walking to the Publix that I worked at because it was right around the corner from where we lived. All right, so now that we talked a little bit about my early job history, we're going to go into a bit about building a resume, some of the general recommendations, and then we're going to go into current job statistics related to hiring over time and the general like sense that like a lot of jobs are like hiring but not really taking applications, like where the data relates to this this feeling that we kind of get right now. So I ended up in I think either junior or senior years when they first have like they start having like time in class to build up like a resume, and so I believe it was probably in my English class that we built out our resume. Of course, when you don't have any job experience, it seems like a little bit daunting to build a resume. Like, where's your experience? But what you can always do, especially if you're first entering the job market, what you're going to want to do is obviously put your name and contact information. You're going to want to put your level of education. So let's say you're in college, you could put the college you're graduating from and your GPA. If it's high, high school, same thing. You could put any kind of teams you were on, rewards that you've won, like if you had any special recognition for like clubs or what you've done, I would put that on there. Skills, if you, let's say you in school took a certificate class to learn coding, definitely put that. If you're Microsoft Office certified, any certifications you earn in high school, definitely put those. So you're going to start off obviously at the top with your name and contact information. Then early on, if the most experience that you have is really school related, you're going to put the level of education next. Then your skills, which are going to be hard and soft skills. If you're not aware, hard skills are going to be more the technical knowledge. I can code, versus soft skills are going to be more the interpersonal skills. So I have leadership experience. I am good at certain communication. I have a lot of experience leading teams. These are going to be soft skills that are more transferable, whereas hard skills are going to be more job specific. And as you develop more experience, the skills you put on your resume are going to change over time. For example, I worked at a paint store for a while, and so part of my hard skills would be like working the machines that spin the paint, or using a forklift, or anything in that sense. And so, if I start applying to more teaching jobs, I don't really need to put the fact that I know how to work a paint machine. It's not relevant. But I would put my soft skills. I work well in a team. I develop plans. I am good at communication. Like anything that relates to any kind of job, you're going to want to put those. So your skills are always going to be modified based on the job you're applying for. Once you start working different jobs, you're going to want to put them in chronological order, starting from your most recent to least recent, so reverse chronological order. So the most recent job experience is what should be listed first in your jobs section of your resume. In there, you're going to want to give a brief job description. So I worked at Publix. My job was handling monetary transactions, efficiency of like handling customers. If you had any kind of accolades or recognition for that job, you would put that in this section as well. But again, keep it brief. Don't go crazy with it. Personally, I wouldn't do any more than one page for a resume. Whether like if you print it out, it should be one physical page, or if you were sending it in a PDF, it's like one page. This is gonna just limit complications, and if you have something that's like 2-3 pages, you're overinflating things. Make it brief, make it accurate and relevant to the job you're applying for. In the beginning, you're going to want that education section at the top. I believe like as you're further away from your education, you're going to want to move that towards the bottom of your resume. Still have it, but you're going to want, like, for example, if you haven't been in high school for 10 years, you're not going to have high school on there anymore. You would have your most recent college experience, and that's about it. Yep, so that's how I would generally structure a resume, my general recommendation. And of course, if you go online, there's so many different options. There's also resume coaches if you want to go that route. If you're in college, there's usually a free resource. So I would check in with someone at your college. Or there are versions online, or of course technology. There's ChatGPT if you really want to go that route. Just obviously check it for accuracy and make sure that everything's legitimate. But there's a lot of different formats online to use and lots of different resources to build resumes. I'm not a career expert. This is just what I've done in my past and from my research. Yeah. All right. And then we're going to talk about a bit about how I went job hunting. So I said earlier, like when I was first applying, I don't know why I had the sense to go physically door to door and do that. I guess I wanted to make a good impression. But even in 2016, when I was applying for jobs, like obviously the internet was a huge thing. So I did a mix of the physical in person applying and going to different websites. Now, if I was looking for jobs, I go to Indeed, websites like that, career building, or there's also Facebook groups. So let's say you live in Broward County, you live in Lee County, you live in whatever county. You can look up Lee County jobs, and there's usually groups all over the place for that. That's actually how I found my current job. So Facebook is a great resource. Obviously, if you're trying to apply to a very specific job, I want to work at Target. You go to Target, you Google just Target jobs, and it's going to give you a direct link to the job website. So there's many different options. Another option is looking up job fairs. So in like those kind of job boards on Facebook, or you can just look Google job fairs near me. Sometimes if it's a certain thing, like the one I went to once was for the airport. So they were hosting a job fair on this date. Bring your resume, sign some things, and get in-person interviews. So that's exactly what I did. I brought my resume, went to the airport, spoke to someone, and at least in that case, they offered me like within an hour. They called me and be like, "Hey, we liked you." Different like job. Like I ended up going for a different job instead of that one, but at least they get back to you because they saw you. They were able to talk to you. Versus a lot of time when you apply online, you can like send out dozens and dozens of applications, and sometimes you never hear back from them. At least what I like about Indeed is that sometimes it shows like when they open your resume, and sometimes they'll actually choose like we did not go with you, or we are in the interview process, or something like that. But it's not always guaranteed. A lot of the time when I've applied to Indeed, like dozens of jobs, they end up ghosting you, which is kind of frustrating. But yeah. And then, for example, how somebody didn't go to the airport. At that time, I ended up going with a job that paid more. So you're gonna want to like look at the competitiveness of the job. Um, my first job was minimum wage, and minimum wage at that year was like 8.70 an hour, something like that. And obviously now it's grown over time, but based on your experience, whenever you leave a job, ideally the goal is to have a higher pay in the next job. So if you're applying to a bunch of jobs, just take into account all the factors, maybe slightly lesser pay is worth slightly less aggravation in a job, but that's all based on your circumstances. But in general, if you're jumping from one job to the next, like you're looking for something that's a little bit more of a competitive pay rate. Pretty much how we were talking about the applying so many jobs to Indeed, but like the ghosting. This is kind of a sensation I get a lot when I've changed from job to job, like whether it's some kind of emergency or hey, I need to get out for any reason. End up sending so many applications. It feels like that. Oh, why is nobody answering? Like why are they putting out that they're hiring but they're not? So obviously 2020, COVID, everything changed, and so there was a huge dip in hiring rates. So up until before that, it was a pretty steady increase, like 1 to 2% every few months over the years. Like it's growing. Obviously, COVID, huge dip, and then there was a very fast peak. It wasn't all the way up to pre-COVID levels, and it still isn't pre-COVID levels, but it did rise shortly afterward because of the need for essential workers, the need for these industries to start up again once things started opening up, and pretty much now it's projected, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's projected to slightly go down just because the need for so just before this, there was a very high demand rate and a lot of options for people looking for employment. They were like there's a lot of competitive rates recently with jobs, but as those are starting to slow down, hiring rates starting to slightly project to be lowering over the next couple of years. But again, not huge amounts. It doesn't, as far as the stats look, like it doesn't look like it's going to dip a lot, but it is definitely dipping a little bit lower than it was, let's say even 2022, 2023. Towards the end of 2023, we started seeing a dip, and currently we are seeing slightly dipping, like maybe 1 or 2%. So not a ton, but it's not consistently rising. So we'll see how things go after the next election, after, what's happening with inflation, world changes, and see if those rates start to increase again regularly. But that's, as of right now, the current projections. So what does this mean for you? Well, we just got to get creative. We got to look for different ways to find jobs. We got to put ourselves out there in multiple forms. So I would still stick with, like, if there are options to meet in person, like job fairs or applying in person with physical resumes, do it. And just use all of the available tools at your disposal. Go into all Indeed and all these Facebook boards. Communicate and network with friends. Talk to people. Find what works for you. And don't be afraid to leave a job for a better job. There are pros and cons to having long histories of, like, with certain jobs. Or if you're jumping from job to job, kind of how my history looks a little bit, at least make it that it's like generally upward jumps and that are showing your growth over time, and include those growths, include those new skills, include your experience in your resume, and make sure your resume is always relevant to what you're applying to. And so that's it. That's going to be our first episode. So moving forward, I'm going to be telling more stories about different job experiences I've had. And stay tuned. We will soon be interviewing some friends, some family members, some others about their job experiences. You're going to end up learning some of the behind the scenes details of a lot of different things you might have been curious about. And that's all for Work It Out Podcast. I'm Lisi, and have a great rest of your day.